Hello, hello. What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Gonna See My Friends podcast, where we just kind of kick back and talk about our favorite movies or just movies that kind of we grew up with, or whatever. Maybe we'll pick a movie and we'll just do a random movie. But anyways, I'm Steven Garcia. This is my host or co-host, Tobias Maximus, aka Toby Ballinger. Toby, how are you doing?
Good morning. Hi, everybody,
Great.
and welcome to spooky season, huh?
Yeah, that's another thing. Keep going, man. Keep going. Tell us about the spooky season. What are we
The
doing?
spooky season is upon us. You may have noticed pumpkins on your neighbor's porch. You may have gone to a pumpkin patch at this point. I have not been to a pumpkin patch this year, but here we are, and there's a lot of fun ways of celebrating the spooky season. Last year around this time, we celebrated with some spooky movies. And this one, Steven said he always wanted to cover this movie. He's been talking about it for a long, long time.
Well, I think
This,
last season. Yeah.
yeah, you wanted to do it last year. I think our compromise was Silver Bullet, which I thoroughly enjoyed.
Yeah.
And I hope everyone else did too. I loved Silver Bullet. And we had a lot of fun recording that podcast. I was cracking up as I was jotting my notes down because I had kind of flashbacks from that because it's a werewolf movie. And this year, we kick off our spooky season with another werewolf movie, The Howling.
The Howling, the Joe Dante 1981 classic.
This is a classic.
Yeah. And this is kind of pulled, like I was telling Toby before we went on air here, like this kind of pulled me back into that kind of time when this kind of this was the year of the werewolf movie.
Yes,
We had a couple, like three, I think, come out this year in a
that's
matter
right.
of months. But it was in the middle of this kind of slasher, horror slasher movie, kind of, I don't know what you would call it, movement or genre, subgenre. And it took me back because I rent this movie and just, like once in a blue moon, but full
Oh,
moon,
whoopsie.
just to kind of scare the bejesus out of me. And
Hmm.
I would just be, it would be like one of those things where you're like, okay, here we go. And it was just one of those movies where you would probably either rent on a Friday night, Saturday night with your buddies, or you would see it on cable, which I think, this was the VHS boom around this time. So,
That's right.
I mean, I know it's probably not on everyone's kind of best of movies, but that's okay because I think this Joe Dante was kind of coming into his own with this movie, and he did Piranha, I think, before this, but
That's right.
this kind of kicked off this kind of, they call it like a satirical type kind of movie, which there's bits of it in there, but I think overall this is just a straight ahead werewolf horror movie. And again, it scared the bejesus out of me. What's your relationship with this movie, Toby? Like, did you enjoy it or did you not, or what's going on?
Well, that's a great question. I was trying to think of a good answer to this because I knew you were going to ask me. But like you said, this was where you get your buddies together and try to scare each other. And I did not have cable growing up, but the kid down the street had satellite. When you had the massive satellite dish, and you had that one guy in the neighborhood who had the massive satellite dish, like bigger than the one on the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah.
I kind of watched parts of it because at one point on HBO it was on a lot, like not
Yeah.
in 1981, of course, but a couple of years after. That idea of I think we want to be scared.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we like that kind of adrenaline rush, and it really takes you out of your day to day, your Sunday spook or Monday spookies or Sunday scaries, I think is the term. You forget about your problems when you're kind of locked in
Yeah.
to, the slasher. And like you said, there were three werewolf movies. The American Werewolf in
London.
London came out 81.
And then
And then
Wolfen.
Wolfen.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've talked about Wolfen too. And this was the this was not only do you get to be scared, but you also have the special effects, practical effects people get to show off
Yeah.
everything that they've thought of, the
Yeah.
creativity of How can we move from Hitchcockian scariness to now I'm going to show you the beginning of the body horror
Yeah.
genre.
Yeah. Good point.
And it pays off. It pays off. So again, saw it bits and pieces of it. I don't think I'd ever actually watched it all the way through, but I've always seen clips of it, and I've always known that the Howling is it's just always back there in the back of your mind.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
this week, watching it again all the way through, at first I was like, "How bad is this gonna be, man?" You know. And I watched it all the way through, and there's some laughable parts. But then I go back and watch it a second time, and I would highly recommend you go back and watch it a second time
Yeah.
and listen to forget about the campiness of it or maybe the bad editing, but there are some real poignant pieces that not only of the filming of it and the practical effects of it, but the mythos of the werewolf itself we get to delve into, and I really dug it this time. The second time I watched it, I was like, holy crap, man, this is freaking great. And I
Yeah.
would recommend, if you haven't watched it again, I really recommend it. We'll get into it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great analysis there because, this was kind of, like I said before, this was kind of in the boom of the slasher horror movie. And then this became like the year of the werewolf movie because we had the Howling that came out in 81 of April of 81. Wolfen came out in July, and that was more like a cerebral kind of echo horror. I don't know. It kind of cheated, I think. I wasn't really into that movie as much. I saw it a couple times. It was a great Albert Finney kind of vehicle. It's a young Albert Finney.
Hmm.
But then you had American Werewolf in London come out in August of 81. And the funny thing was that what's his name? Stan, or not Stan Winston. What's the other guy's name? He did Michael Jackson's Thriller. I don't know. I forget his name. Damn it. Yeah, the I follow him on Instagram, but I can't remember. Anyways, he was originally doing The Howling, and then John Landis called him to do American Werewolf in London.
Rick Baker.
Rick Baker, thank you very much. And Rick Baker started out on this movie
That's right.
and had an agreement with John Landis because he had said they were waiting around, I think in the late 70s, and they were trying to get American Werewolf in London off the ground. He said, "Okay, I want to do this movie with you. Whenever you get it done, or whenever you get it going, then I'll join you." Well, unfortunately, he got it going during the beginning stages of this movie. So Rob Bottin kind of had to come in, and this was kind of from The Thing, and he's done a lot of other things too.
Oh,
He
incredible.
comes,
And you can see it too.
well, yeah,
When you watch the transformation from human to wolf is really, you get to see every part of the body, and it's really kind of drawn out. And this
yeah,
is what I'm talking about, the showing off. This
yeah,
is the same guy who gave us The Thing, like you said, RoboCop, Total Recall, 2 weeks. Seven, Fight Club. I mean, you can see it. You're like,
yeah,
that's why I recognize these practical effects. And we
yeah,
did The Thing, and we
yeah,
were talked about it for
yeah.
at length about how we get to see and just the elaborateness of his skills, phenomenal.
Yeah, and I think that this kind of I think starts that whole kind of thing of the practical horror effects, kind of trying to one up each other.
Yeah.
It seems. I mean, I'm sure it's competitive, but it seems like their Rick Baker would be like, man, if that's cool. I'm going to do this. Then I'm going to try. That friendly competitive thing, but. Yeah, I mean it's amazing. I think what a lot of people what I've heard anyways in the message boards about this movie is that why doesn't she just run while he's transforming into this
Right.
wolf? But I always like to think about it as one, yeah, it's a chance to show off and all that kind of thing, and so that's how you film it. But also, it's very in the time within the movie time. It's probably a lot fast. Excuse me, a lot faster, and so, but it's just filmed in a way that it's drawn out. I feel like that's how I defend it because that's how I see it. Because yeah, anybody in the middle of that transformation, give him a quick shove and run out the door, and he's like, ah.
Right.
But I think it's for me, it's like that's how I think about it. But yeah, it's just it's a chance to like you know appreciate the practical effects, which were kind of part and parcel of any kind of 80s slasher movie. If the more realistic or the more grotesque it is, I think you probably have a nice career in Hollywood if you could do that. And Rob Bottin surely, I don't know if that's how you say it. That's how I say it, Bottin. But yeah, he was incredible.
Well, and that's a really interesting take because I was thinking the same thing when Dee Wallace is just standing there watching it. I'm like, is she just so terrified that she can't move? But at the same time, I was thinking while the werewolf is transforming, that's probably when it's at its most vulnerable.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
your point is this is probably all happening all at once, but we're just the way we get to see it is this and this. But
Yeah.
this is like filmmaking. This
Yeah.
is,
Right.
I mean, if Hitchcock could see it, he would be like, "Wow, you're actually going to show this." Instead of just going, "Murr, murr." I mean, they did this with like old 30s vampire movies, where
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
second it was a guy, and the next minute it was, and there's fangs. That's cool, for the time. It's scary. Abbott and Costello fought the werewolf. I mean, I don't remember if there was a full transformation scene, but they would have been all, let's skedaddle. I mean,
Yeah. Well, back then it was more of like it would just fade into like they would shoot one scene of a regular guy his leg and then they would fade into the next shot which is his leg is a little more hairy and then they'd fade
okay.
into a next shot. So it would gradually get into this werewolf where they could cut, apply some makeup. All right, film 10 seconds, cut. All right, film for another whatever, and they could do it that way. That's what they did a lot, especially in the original werewolf movies and like Dracula and Frankenstein. Any type of transformation was always like a cutaway or some sort of like fade. And so this was kind of the first time I feel like, and let us know if I'm wrong, which I probably am. But this was the first time for me that we saw it on camera, and there was the chance to kind of, like you said, kind of show off this kind of trick. This probably what they've thought about. Oh, how can I do this? And I think Rick Baker with American Werewolf in London, he had him alone in an apartment so he could do all this and there's nothing to say, oh, you should run or you should do this. Although he was screaming, and I don't know why that didn't draw any attention, but that's neither here nor there. But but it was just amazing to see this transformation on on screen. And I heard that it took like 3 weeks. American Werewolf London, it took like 3 weeks just to shoot that whole thing. So it was quite the process, to do that. And it's great because now it's on film and it's preserved and you can watch it and go back to whatever. If you're impressed with it, you can kind of see that whenever you want. But let's go back to the kind of the time, which was this came out in 81. What kind of movies were you watching back then? I mean, do you have like a specific genre you were watching? Because we were kids. This is I think I'm 7 or 8 at this time. So were you like, yeah,
81. I don't. I mean, our catalog. We would get an animated movie maybe once a year. Maybe Disney would put something out for us to go
yeah,
watch. In 81, I mean, it's Reagan's in the. It's a things are rapidly changing in
yeah,
1981 in
yeah,
America.
yeah, yeah,
Not only in in well, the setting of this movie, and we'll get into this because I have a lot of thoughts on what was happening in 1981 and why this plot goes the direction and takes the werewolf genre in the direction that it takes. But I don't think I was into, we didn't go to the movies a lot. And if we did, it was whatever was coming out on Disney. Well, Empire Strikes Back, obviously,
yeah,
go
yeah,
over and over and over again. Yeah, it wasn't really a time for us as year olds. Just call, we're going to just round up. But these, and I don't know if you would call this a B movie per se, but there were a lot of, as we walked through the video, I'm picturing walking through the video store to rent The Howling and seeing that case that says The Howling.
yeah,
and it's next to all sorts of other, this horror genre is exploding at this time. And you're like, well, just pick any one of them. And a lot of them are bad.
Yeah.
And I think people would just walk past The Howling and not rent it because it was in this group as you go down, probably alphabetically. I don't remember how the video stores did it, but and just go, no, 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 no. And you're literally judging a book by its cover. And is the cover of is the poster of the
Hmm.
movie
Yeah.
going to make me want to rent it?
Yeah.
And so if you've never seen it and you know you've seen it on the shelf and never rented it, I appreciate that you have been talking about this for the last year because I probably wouldn't have gone back and watched it again. And I mean, there's what, six sequels of this movie? I
Just like with
mean,
any of the slasher movies of the time, they had to make like a whole. Was Friday 13th had what, like 10, 11?
oh God, who can count?
Yeah, I
And then
lost
you
count of
start
the
them over.
10.
I mean, but you also have a lot of Stephen King movies are coming out around this time. Books are being Carrie's out in the theater. Cujo's out.
Yeah,
Christine is a movie. You have a lot. I mean, Stephen King's kind of really kind of running the show
yeah.
at the time. Speaking of Dee Wallace from Cujo, and
Hmm.
and you
Yeah,
and Scott talked about E.T. She is kind of in this genre of she's down for it, man.
yeah,
You gotta love D
yeah.
Wallace.
She was relatively unknown when this came out because she only did what was it? It wasn't the Hills Have Eyes, but it was something one of those movies. Again, my old man brain. I have it in my notes, but I have so many notes I can't. Anyways, but yeah. I mean, I think at this time, like you were saying, it's kind of. I remember renting a lot of like GI Joe or no, it wasn't out yet, but I mean, like those type of movies, like cartoon animated type of movies.
Yeah, we had Transformers to watch and
Yeah,
GI Joe GoBots to
yeah,
watch, and
yeah,
we had that was the cartoon boom. You're right. There was a lot that we were satisfied with by watching the shows during the week.
yeah.
Knight Rider and A Team and Dukes of Hazzard
Yes.
was going crazy at the time.
Well, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Like, do you think? I mean, compared to now we have access to everything at any time. But back then, is it because we were maybe spoiled by the lack of not lack, but because we had a lot of stuff, but it was kind of more regimented in terms of how we got it. We got it, come home after school. You have this, Saturday mornings you have this. Do you think that was such like a more fulfilling time to be? I mean, because we had this explosion of stuff, and I think
Hmm.
what we were talking about last week was we had like Teddy Ruxpin and Cabbage Patch Dolls, and
Yeah.
you had all the Rubik's Cube and Pac Man. We had all this stuff coming out that was just made it seem like in this and VHS and VCRs and movies and all that kind of stuff. This just it made me seem like this was a time. It was like a sort of like a cultural boom of just like I don't know, we're coming out of a recession, and we had
Hmm.
like you said, we had Reagan in the White House, and it just seemed like this was the beginning of the excess of
Hmm.
things, which for us, I think we kind of enjoyed it in the sense of like we were talking about in Raiders of the Lost Ark, like we didn't know any different. So when we enjoyed it, we just kind of enjoyed it from a point of view of like, this is just life. Oh yeah, we can have all this stuff. But nowadays it seems like it's a lot more divisive in terms of this is for this audience, this is for this audience, this is for this audience, and kind of it just doesn't have
Oh yeah.
the magic anymore. Do you feel that, or do you feel like, how do you feel about that?
Well, yeah, I mean, well, in looking at us, we had, our childlike wonder about
Yeah.
us in
Yeah.
we had baseball cards we could collect.
Yeah.
We
Oh
had
yeah.
the
Comics.
comic books that we could collect. You start getting into Spider-Man. Are you a DC guy or a Marvel guy? And
Mhm.
you can have um, there was when something came out, when we saw the commercials for it, and we were bombarded with commercials through the TV shows that they were starting to make TV shows for us kids that were, my parents sat and watched the Dukes of Hazzard and A Team and Knight Rider with us.
Oh,
And I was glued, like we can't miss it.
Yeah.
And if you go back and watch, this was not, they must have just been, because I'm sitting on the floor in front of the TV, like, inches away from the screen, and they're sitting behind me, and they must have been like, what in the hell are we watching right now? They were starting to make things for us.
Yeah.
Well, we had more shows than we had movies. We had more like toys. We
Yeah.
had better toys, and we had more activities. Um, uh, I think that they gave us a lot of distractions and things that we could get excited about. I
Yeah.
mean, Jesus Christ, we got excited about the Scholastic Book Fair. I mean, we
Yeah.
these nostalgic things when if you us Gen Xers, we know you follow some Gen Xers on social media and it's like, hey, remember when this was like the bit? I'm like, 100%.
Yeah.
100% remember that. This was everything. You would like wake up, you couldn't sleep the night before something was released like that. Toys R Us was a store that
Jesus.
you could go to with Giraffe as the mascot. You're
Yeah. That
in.
was, yeah, those are the times, man. I feel like, and I feel this movie was part of that, or part of a kind of explosion of, like we were saying, slasher movies. You had Halloween, you had Friday the 13th that came out like either the same year or the year before. And
Yeah.
Halloween came out late 70s, I think 78 or 79. And so, you have this kind of thing where, like you were talking about, they made a lot of they made a lot of stuff, but it seemed like, for me anyways, my uncles would always rent these scary movies, or these, like, they would rent The Godfather, or they would rent Once Upon a Time in America, whatever it was. And so, I would just watch these, by proxy. I would be into these movies because it was just like, oh, Friday night, wait, where's the cartoons that you rent? Oh, we didn't rent any. We're gonna watch Godfather tonight. And I just thought these were the most violent movies that I've ever seen. And just, there's a couple of them where I shouldn't have been watching, but I just didn't have those kind of barriers. So, and I think this is one of them. I think, from it was like a palate cleanser because for us, at this time I was renting Stripes, Cannonball Run,
Nice.
Smokey and the Bandit,
Yeah.
all these kind of movies that were kind of silly, made for grown-ups, but kids could kind of get in on the jokes, a couple of the jokes. And you know, I was running Star Wars and all that. So this movie was kind of more of like it's like, oh my god, I need to go see a Star Wars movie or Bugs Bunny cartoon or something, because it would just scare the bejesus out of me. But yeah, so let's get back to the movie.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think the early horror, 80s horror, there was a mix of like shock, satire, guts, splatter, and I think the Howling has a little bit of all that in there. But slashers were kind of getting big, like I said. You had Friday the 13th, you had My Bloody Valentine, The Burning, Happy Birthday to Me. Those came out all in 1981 as well. So I think studios were kind of realizing that they were cheap, they were kind of easy to make, and
Yeah.
you had a big audience. And so that was kind of the blueprint for kind of movies like this. And they were realizing this is coming out of the new movie, the new age of cinema in the 70s, which was kind of darker, grittier. The anti-hero is more the main character. And so studios were kind of getting keen and figuring out, oh, okay, here's a formula that we could follow. We can make a lot of money, and we can tailor it to kind of teens and older, and
Hmm.
kind of get that audience in here. Let's see, what was kind of, when you were watching this movie,
Yeah.
what was the one thing that kind of stood, or were there a couple things that stood out? What stood out to you about this movie?
As far as a werewolf movie goes, I think what we had seen up to this point was the lone wolf.
Yeah.
And this is really, and this zags in that, I mean, you go into it thinking that she's going to be chased by a werewolf,
Hmm.
right? It starts out with her kind of being seduced, almost seduced by a werewolf. And it's much bigger than that. I like the idea of the pack of wolves, and that really stood out to me. The comedy that's in it, there's legitimately funny lines in this that's, kind of tongue in cheek, kind of
Yeah. when
cutaways, like she's gonna be fine. I think she's gonna be fine, and then immediately they cut to her being bitten by the.
yeah,
I mean, that's funny stuff.
yeah, yeah,
That really stood out to me. The there's some things that kind of I would have edited it differently, I
Uh,
think.
yeah,
But I think there's also a lot of deleted scenes that we don't see that explain some of my. I mean, I had to go on Reddit and you know
yeah,
the message boards to find out why I'm confused about what happened. What happened from here to here? And they're like, well,
yeah.
there's actually a deleted scene that explains that. I'm
Yeah,
like,
my
okay.
my DVD has this, but I have my DVD player. I lost the remote to it, so it has like documentaries on the making of it and everything, behind the scenes interviews and stuff. But I couldn't access it. I can only access the widescreen screen version of the movie, so that's all I watched. But I looked up a lot of stuff, and it was interesting because this movie, they when it came out, they marketed it as kind of like a psychological thriller. So in the beginning, you kind of don't really understand what's going on. You think, oh, it's a serial killer, and he's stalking this TV personality, and
Hmm.
they end up killing him. And so, her shock and her thing and her trauma is kind of like, oh, okay, we're into this, and that's the way they kind of marketed it. And so when the time you got to when the other woman gets to the camp, and yet and you kind of see like the was a werewolf when she's in, chops off the arm and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's when it was supposed to be kind of like, oh my god, it was sort of like From Dusk Till Dawn. That first part of that movie is just, oh, okay, it's a road trip movie with some dangerous elements in it.
Yeah.
They're hostages, and oh wow, it's a vampire movie. And so I feel like that's kind of what they did. And I don't know, I wasn't old enough to kind of remember all that stuff, but even the trailer was kind of spooky, and kind of didn't get into the werewolf stuff a lot. So I see where that kind of marketing kind of worked to a degree, but I have to talk to somebody that really, like, it would be nice to talk to somebody that saw this in the movie theater, and just be like,
Right.
hey, were you aware that this was marketed to you in a certain way? But I don't know. Anybody that's listening to this, let us know, because I would really like to get to know. Another thing is, like, I read the novel that this movie is based on,
Okay.
and this is like, there's elements of the movie has elements of the book, which is that she goes through this traumatic experience, and then has to move. But in the book, they move to a town, and it's in this valley in California, and there's not a lot of people in this town, and they get one of the houses. And but that was the difference. There was also, the husband is kind of goes through this thing that happens in the movie too. But for the most part, the book is just straight ahead, like, I guess, horror. And so that was interesting to read too. It's a fast read. I read it in probably like a couple hours, and so it was like, oh, okay, this is. But John Sayles, who wrote this movie, he goes on to write, Eight Men Out, and what else did he write? He writes, Jesus, I had his. So he wrote Alligator, Piranha in '78 with Joe Dante. He wrote just Brother from Another Planet, Clan of the Cave Bear, City of Hope, Passion Fish, just all these. He had a credited rewrite of Apollo 13, but he also did, where's that one, that Lone Star with Matthew McConaughey. He wrote and directed that one. So he's a pretty prolific writer, but he didn't like the novel. And I guess that rubbed the author the wrong way. So
Yeah. Well, you could tell. I think that Gary Brandner,
yeah,
who wrote the
Brander.
novel,
Yeah, yeah,
he didn't care for the movie because of it. He thought it went strayed way too far from the plot of the book.
yeah, yeah. Which I don't agree with, because I feel like if you read the book, yeah, there's a few things that are different, but the overall kind of theme of this lady moving to somewhere where there's a colony of or in the book it was a town full of werewolves, but and here it's just like a colony, and the doctor's part of it. And there's elements of, like, in the book, the doctor is a character in the book as well,
Hmm.
and kind of is kind of shown to be a werewolf like in the movie. And so there's a lot of similarities, but where the plot differs is it's just kind of in the little things of, like I said, it was a town versus a colony. It's on the coast. This is a town, whatever. So,
Right.
but yeah, I mean, I think yeah, anyways. Did you have any kind of scenes that kind of grabbed you?
Absolutely. The just touching on the doctor just real quick, just how the colony, the pack of wolves, gets her to come to them. I like this the fire scene when she okay, so she's a TV anchor. She is being there's a serial killer on the loose in Los Angeles,
That's
and
where I think too. Yeah.
yeah, I mean they talk about Western Avenue, and there's a red light district, and
Yeah.
it has to be Los Angeles, right? And she's tracking down. She's got the lead on. She's going to solve the crime of Eddie the Mangler. That's the serial killer on the loose.
Yeah.
So the cops bug her. She's wired up so that they're gonna spring the trap. She's the bait, and she goes to the movie house, the adult movie house, and Eddie lures her in, and he starts to change in front of her.
Yeah.
We don't see it. We're teased with it, and then the cops bust in and just open fire, and they
Yeah.
kill Eddie the Mangler, and he's dead, and she's the hero. But then she starts having this PTSD.
Yeah.
She can't remember. It's a site. And so she's referred to Dr. Wagner, who tells her, listen, I've got this colony up the coast. It's a good place for you to mellow out. And, once you do remember, you won't be scared anymore.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay, cool. So she goes up to the colony. I like that idea that this was all set up ahead of time, like the how do we get her to the colony so that we can then get her into our pack.
Oh, yeah.
And I like that a lot. I like that when they get to the colony, there's a big bonfire, and all the members of the colony are there, and Dr. Wagner's there. And there's the old man, and his teeth hurt. He's like, man, and he says something. He said, there's a couple of lines in here that kind of just give the plot away, but these are throwaway lines if you're
Yeah.
watching it for the
Yeah.
first time. You're
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
like, what's
Yeah.
this crazy old man is just grumbling to himself? And the old man, I got it in. Hang on. He's grumbling to himself. Uh, he says, Earl, the old man Earl says, I can't go on like this. Damn teeth is shot. And then he's going to end his life, and he's going to jump into the fire. Yeah, I got to end it. I got to burn. It just goes on and on. And I caught it the second time watching it all the way through. And I went, okay, so you have everything you need to know is being told to you from the first time through. But as you're watching this, you're kind of going, dude, are they just trying to weird us out or creep us out? You're being told what the story is, what
Oh,
their
yeah.
plan is, the
Yeah.
whole,
Yeah.
yeah. I really liked that. The second time through watching that campfire scene where they're roasting, they're eating a
Meat.
cow.
Yeah.
Turns out they're
Yeah.
just eating a cow, and they want to go back to the old ways. This call, as we find out later. Watching it the first time, I kind of was like kind of not paying attention. I was kind of deep diving, and then also watching it at the same time. And watching it a second time, I was like, oh, this is
Yeah.
actually a really, really cool way of showing us uh, what these people are, what this
Yeah.
pack of wolves is.
Yeah.
And that actually scared me more than anything.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think even if you like when you figure that out and then you watch it again,
Hmm.
the reactions of these characters in the colony, like you start to see like the in joke, like you're in on that joke, and D. Wallace Stone and Christopher Stone, I forget the names of the characters, but they're the ones that aren't in on the joke yet. So you're kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, yeah. They're kind of winking at each other, when they take him hunting, and when he gets he shoots all those rabbits, and it leads up to the kind of the first confrontation in the colony. But it's really cool too how Joe Dante kind of uses the shadows, because they filmed that up in Mendocino,
Yeah.
and like how he uses shadow and the darkness and the trees, how that's kind of like the another character in and of itself, because it's kind of helping you with the creep factor. You're walking, you're gonna. But they do a lot of the tropes too. There's a trope scene where, they're sitting out. I think D. Wallace Stone and another lady from the colony are sitting in the dark outside, and they hear like this weird. sounds like a cow. I was like, oh, that doesn't
Yeah,
sound like any cow I know. And instead of
right.
like kind of letting people know about it, they go out and they look at for it in the dark, and they run into the sheriff and some other people in there, and they're like, oh, I hope that, damn coyotes and
Right.
Slim Pickens there. That was
Yeah.
awesome. Every
Slim
time I see
Pickens is,
him, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, no,
Go
every
ahead.
time I see him, I think about Blazing Saddles. I mean, every time I see that dude, but yeah,
He's phenomenal.
he's funny in that.
Let
But that
me
was
touch on this.
okay.
Let me
Yeah,
touch on this because this, I think, and also keeping in mind that it is 1981. What's going on in 1981 is, and they speak about a lot. In the late 60s, there was the hippies, and the hippies grow up. Now it's 10 years later. The hippies at this point, the world has kind of moved on. Now we're getting into the 80s, and the hippies have kind of gone into these splinter groups. And Donna, who's the lady that's sitting there with
Donna.
Karen at listening to the cows being massacred by the wolves, because then you hear the wolves howling, you hear the
Yeah,
cows screaming, and then the wolves howling, and and she's like, "Well, no cows I've ever heard of." And Donna says, haven't you ever done assertiveness training before? I looked into the doc. I did it all. STM, Scientology, Iridology, Primal Scream. I mean, this is honestly, when the hippies tried to find their way in life, this is the path. And some of them would do all these things. This is
yeah,
real.
yeah,
This
yeah,
shit
yeah.
actually happened.
Well,
And
oh, go ahead.
right? They were trying to find, they're still trying to hang on to that, how spiritual I am. And they would just bounce around from thing to thing.
Well, yeah, Est was sorry to cut you off. Est
No,
was this thing of it was even brought up in Stripes when John Candy's introducing
yes.
himself, and he's like, "Yeah, so my doctor suggested I should try these like anger management courses, like Est, those kind of things." So that comes up a lot. Yeah, that was in '81 too. So it was that start of this like kind of self-help boom, I guess that
Yeah.
started.
Oh,
I think. Yeah,
100%. And they're speaking on it and showing, I mean, almost to a point where showing the ridiculousness of, listen, you do you, boo.
yeah,
But at the same time, if you need to bounce around it, Scientology, Primal Scream was a big thing. Transcendental meditation. I was like, oh my dude, this is heavy duty stuff. And this was still going on. These
yeah.
boomers were really struggling to find their path, man. They were trying to figure out who they were.
Yeah. Well, I think that was kind of the satire part of the movie was
Yes.
poking fun at these kind of self-help guru type of colonies or like groups that or
Colts.
retreats, yeah, cults. So it was kind of the commentary of that, which was, like you said, coming out of the late 60s, yet Manson, and then you had
That's right.
all
Manson's
these
brought
other,
up in this.
yeah, and the guy that drank all the Kool-Aid, that
Yeah, Jim
cult, and
Jones.
yeah, there you go. And so you have this commentary on this stuff, and it's framed in this werewolf movie, which I think is kind of the werewolf is kind of one of those things where they're poking fun at the werewolf kind of movies too, but in doing so they kind of made it into this its own genre and kind of kicked off this, like I said, this was the year of the werewolf movie, so it kind of kicked off this genre and kind of made it more, because when you had the vampire Frankenstein werewolf movies
Mhm.
of the 50s and late 30s and 40s and all that, it was kind of in this, at the time it was kind of in this campy horror, and it was scary for the time, let's just put it that way. But then
That's right.
in the 60s you had Hammer Films, which kind of upped the gore, and you had these kind of more violent vampire movies and werewolf movies, and they were made in Italy, and so you had this up and gore. So now you get into the 80s, which is the decade of excess, and
Hmm.
you just take the roof off and go have fun. And that's what Rick Baker and Rob Bottin and Tom Savini, which was he was up there with those guys. He was part of that 60s and '70s kind of exploitation slasher picks. And so, I mean, it was a great time for this movie. And like you were saying, to your point, like I think a lot of that was like satire, which I didn't understand at the time. I just thought it was a scary werewolf movie. But like you said, you watch it now and you pick up on these things and you kind of think, oh, okay, yeah, that was a ripe time for that too. Cause I had never heard of Scientology up until like maybe I don't know, the late 90s, maybe was the first time maybe I had heard of it. So
Whoa,
yeah.
well, hang on. I'm gonna pull rank on you.
Okay.
We were inundated at this time with those commercials for fucking Dianetics, the book by
Oh
L.
yeah.
Ron Hubbard.
Yeah. I had
It
no
was
idea
on
that that was
all the
Scientology.
time. That no,
Yeah.
it was. This is like, and those the amount of money they spent on advertising throughout the '80s. That freaking Dianetics
Yeah.
by with the volcano exploding.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah.
was like, what is it? That was the 1877 Cars for Kids of the '80s, dude. That goddamn commercial was on all the time,
I
and
remember that.
it was a cult. It's a cult. I mean, for the Scientologists out there, forgive me,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's.
No, you got to call spade a
I
spade.
mean, you're
Yeah.
getting
But
lumped into in 1981. You're getting lumped into the group with Est, DM, Iridology, and Primal Scream. Hope you're
S is one
enjoying
I
yourself.
remember only because of Stripes, like Est, those kind of things, and it's like $400, $400. I didn't have that kind of money, and I said, hey, why don't I just join the army? It's free, and you have the 6 to 8 week training program, which is perfect for me. It just goes on. And
Right.
I could do that whole fucking thing. But yeah, I remember those commercials, but I had no idea that was. I just thought it was I thought it was for the book. And look, this is how I was as a kid. I was just kind of naive and
That's the
didn't really
gateway
pay.
drug right there. You
Yeah,
read
exactly.
Dianetics and you're in. Now I want to
Yeah.
know more. There's more
Well,
books. You want to
yeah.
read the rest of them? It's going to cost
Well,
you
let me
hundreds of
tell you the
thousands of
story.
dollars.
Let me tell you the story. I was living in San Francisco with Buxa,
Yeah.
in the year 2000. We moved there, and I had this job at the Virgin Megastore, which is on Fourth and Market. And so I would take the underground out to what is it, the outer or the inner Sunset, I should say, and then I would walk home. But so um I got off of work and I caught the underground right there where the trolley turns around. And so I would walk out. Actually was working on that street, but anyways, and these kids around, well, I would say around, I think they looked around my age, but they were probably a little younger, probably in their early 20s, where I was in my late 20s. At least that's what I thought. And they were like, hey man, how you doing? And I was like, I'm just getting off work, I'm gonna go home. And he's like, well, hey, we're having this party and you look like a cool guy, you want to come and have this party? And there was a group of like, I want to say like maybe five, and they were a mixture of guys and girls and stuff. And this was at my time when I was more of a, yeah, sure, let's go, let's party, and so we went and took this different train and went to the inner, I think it was like right next to the park. So it was like off of Lincoln there and Irvine. And so we get off and we go into this house, and they're like, yeah man, let's eat, we're having some food, and first man, we're gonna sing some songs. Do you know how to play an instrument? I'm like, yeah, I play guitar. Great, here, play this. And they gave me this acoustic, and they're like, what song do you know? And I was like, well, I know To Be With You by Mr. Big. You like that song? And they're like, yeah, let's sing. And I was playing, and this girl came up and she sang, and everybody was watching it. And at the house there was even more people, so there's like a group of like maybe 20 people in this house. And I'm like, and they're like, oh, it's time for dinner. You want to eat? And I'm like, yeah, when's the party start? They're like, this is the party. And I was like, okay. And so we ate this great dinner. It was like chicken and just every kind of food there, vegetables, everything. And then so I was like, oh, this is cool. I mean, it could be worse. And so we finish eating dinner and we sing a couple more songs. And I'm like, okay, well, I think I'm going to go. And they're
Mhm.
like, okay, well, before you go, do you want to hear like a presentation? And I was like, what?
I was
A
like,
presentation of
like
what?
here they go, and then Kiefer
Yeah.
Sutherland walks in, and it's a vampires. They turn into vampires.
Well,
No, dude.
I'm like, no, it's okay. It's like 8:30. And I was like, nah, I'm gonna go home. I had to take a shower, get ready, get ready for watch some TV and get ready for bed. And they're like, oh, okay. Would you like to donate to us? And I was like, donate money? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, oh man, I live paycheck to paycheck, so I can't really afford to give you any kind of money. It's like, well, anything will do. And I'm like, oh shit. So I gave them like $5, I think I had on me at the time. And they were just kind of like, and I'm like, all right, I'm out. And I
Yeah.
got out, dude, because I just thought it just kind of got, it didn't get dark, but it kind of got a little sketchy at the end because I think it was some sort of cult. I don't know if it was Scientology, but it was some sort of cult. And then I would see them inside my work, and I would just be like, good Lord. And I always
Wow.
wonder what was, because there was no like adults there. I think I was the oldest one there. And it was a really sketchy time. So yeah, I mean, I think getting back to the point of like the 80s and the Colts and all this other stuff, it's really easy to probably get sucked into those things, especially like you said, if they were like children of the hippies or the hippies that had grown up,
Yeah.
like that's just normal. I know that's, it's all about the love,
Well,
and this,
it is. And the recruiters, so who you met and you talked to on the BART train,
yeah,
was recruiting.
yeah,
And
yeah,
as
yeah.
soon
Cause
as
I
you
saw
left,
them. Yeah.
they turned to that guy and was like, that's the guy you bring back here? You found him on the train? We need to find people with money.
Yeah.
Find
Yeah.
people with money. This guy's singing all that I want to. Dude, I mean, listen, it can be profitable. Oftentimes you lose a lot of money. And
Yeah.
usually only the leader is the one that has all the money. Like Creed said in the office. Yeah, I've been in lots of cults. Sometimes as a follower, sometimes as the
Sometimes
leader.
it's a
You make a
leader,
lot more money when you're the leader.
but
I
you have a
mean,
lot more fun when you're a follower.
and also, by the way, you're in San Francisco. This is kind of where the hippies are trying to just survive. The Haight Ashbury. It started in Haight Ashbury, with the Summer of Love, and it spread out. And those who stuck around, I mean, it's just grifting. It's just another form of grifting. But yeah, if you're the way you recruiting people into a cult, from what I understand, is you find the marker that you're looking for is somebody who really needs to hear that message at that time.
Yeah.
That's why
Yeah.
Charlie Manson was so good at creating the Manson family. And
Yeah.
this is brought up, and when they go to in the other scene with the occult bookstore,
Yeah.
the occult
Dick
bookstore
Miller.
owner,
Dick
he
Miller. Yeah.
goes, we get them all: sun worshippers, moon worshippers, Satanists. The Manson people used to hang around here and shoplift, bunch of deadbeats. Because you can't make money at the shop store owner, the occult
Yeah.
bookstore owner. He's trying to
Dick
make
Miller.
money too. He's trying to make
Yeah.
money off of all these people that are grifters. And he knows I can sell. I've got this whole store full of books, and there's every. He's like, I got Wolfsbane livers. I sell it all.
Silver bullets.
Silver bullet. Yeah, that's exactly right. The reporter goes, "What, you believe in this stuff?" He goes, "What am I, an idiot? I'm making a buck here. You want books? I got books. I got chicken blood. I got dog embryos. I got black candles. I got wolfsbane. Look at this, silver bullet. Some joker ordered him. Never picked him up. Never picked him up. So that guy's
Yeah.
probably part of that group." And then he goes, "I take Bank Americard, American Express, Visa. It's all a money making operation."
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, man, this is 1981. Knowing about now that everybody's kind of gone through all this stuff, and the heyday of you had the golden era of the serial killer during this time. You had the Hare Krishnas, you had the Moonies, you had, the list goes on. You have the religious ones like the Scientology and marriage
Yeah.
encounter, if you will. And then you have people that profit off of those people, and that's the occult bookstore. I just really liked that the Howling incorporated all of these things all in one place. It was watching it the second time I went, this is pretty freaking awesome, because
Yeah. It's kind
you
of
get
clever.
you
Yeah.
get a taste of all of it. You get the practical effects, you get some special effects, You get shining a light on all these different factions of like you said, self-help, self-improvement. And then
Yeah.
you have the people that are the once you're a werewolf, you have the immortality side of it. And so
Right.
when the old
Yeah.
man at the fire, he's going to throw himself in because he's done. It's never going to end. It just keeps going.
Yeah.
You're like, how long? That's the downside of living forever.
Yeah.
You see that, and
Yeah.
you see that with the
Yeah.
vampires too, where immortality's got its downside, and that is it never ends.
Yeah.
It never ends. And you're at one point, you're just like, how do I get out of this?
Yeah.
It
Well, and
sounds
I think
good.
that well that
It's
that
very
that
seductive.
well that the it I think that that's where the difference between uh a lycanthrope, I think that's what they call some a shapeshifter, and werewolves, where they only come out with the full moon. Now you can't just time jump like every once a month, and so he needed to do this within, I think it was like a week, or I forget what it was, but so he made the choice to change that from to werewolves to lycanthropes, and kind of the shapeshifters, so that they can do
Okay.
it anytime they want to. And I think that was a good choice to do, because I mean, if you do werewolves, you have to do it like once a month at the full moon, and then that's just kind of slow, and it kind of kills anything, kind of thing. But I wanted to talk really quickly before
Well,
we end
and,
here. I
and
wanted to
also, and
go ahead.
also, before you go on, the thing with the werewolf is it's a curse. Whether you want to or not, when the full moon comes out, you change
Yeah,
regardless if you want it or
yeah,
not. These people
yeah,
in this wolf pack, genuinely, most of them, but except for the old man who's going to throw himself into the fire and just be done with it, most of these people are thriving in this community. They love this. The
yeah,
doctor, who's also a vampire, he's trying to help them instead of just what I say, werewolf, excuse me. He's trying to help them move into normal society where we can still
yeah,
do our thing, but we need to move ahead with the times. Where they've just been feeding on people, and there's all these dead bodies all over the place, and then you have serial killers like Eddie the
yeah.
Mangler. So I
Well,
mean,
yeah,
there's so much going on here.
yeah. Well, it's that, and it's also kind of talking about, I think at the time too, like the transition between the old school and the new school of
Exactly.
these werewolves. They're younger. They want to, like just have fun, party, kill at whatever. But these old timers are like, look, we got to protect ourselves, and we have to, kind of make sure we do this right. And that's when he's saying about the old ways of like, well, we used to raise cattle and feed on cattle. It's like, no, yeah, I don't want to do that. The younger ones are like, I don't want to do that anymore. And you have Eddie at the beginning, who's a serial killer who wants to go out and live among the people. But that's where I think, because we got to talk about the ending of this too, the final shots of where kind of this movie kind of ran out of money, as you could say, because
Okay.
there's a couple of shots, and I'll point them out. The ones I realized was when they were making love by the fire, and they turn into werewolves. That animation at the end where they shows them turning into
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
one, the last shot of them after they get in the cop car and they take off. They have those three werewolves standing in the road, and they're like, "Woo!" That was animated, you could tell. But also, they ran out of money, so when they did the Dee Wallace transformation, she turns into what looks like a chihuahua.
Yeah. Or Care Bear or something.
Yeah, it was like a little chihuahua doggy something. They were just ran out of money. They had to do that, I think, in Joe Dante's office. Her transformation. That's why it's really close up, and so there's some limitations on what they, for the most part. I think this movie kind of holds up because of the things that we talked about, the satire, the kind of commentary on the self help kind of movement, and all the different variations of that. But yeah, so what do you have a Clay Thompson Award nominee?
You know, I do. It pains me to say it,
No.
but it's Kevin McCarthy.
Oh yeah, that's
Okay,
great.
so Kevin McCarthy plays the station manager. And everything I'm like, it's this guy. Now, I'm like, every time I've seen Kevin McCarthy, he's always this smarmy, just, and I'm like, what was the movie that really made me just really hate this guy? UHF. I'm all, it's
He had a great time
UHF.
on that
That's,
movie.
oh my God. He's, first of all, he's like 6'4". He's this big, he's uh, just this big. He takes up all the room. When he's in the room, you see him, and he's got this kind of that's like a cheese and a shot, and you're just like, you just hate him immediately. And some of the things he says in the in the beginning. So he's running the station, and he's gross, right? He's just trying to make a buck. And what does he say? Where is it? It's in the opening scene, I want to say. When Karen freezes up on, she's having a flashback in the opening scene where now we cut to Karen with the Karen
Uh,
White with the, and she's the anchor. She's starting off the 5 o'clock news, and she freezes up. So they cut to an editorial by their station manager, Fred
uh,
Francis. Then they cut to him in his office, and he's on the phone, and he's like, "I don't know. She's upset. She's probably pregnant. I would get him to that Fujimura or Fujiyama, whoever." And I'm like, dude, this guy is such a like an '80s just misogynist, and I mean he's just trying to make a buck. But I hate this guy. I hate him, and he plays it so well that he has to be my Clay Thompson Award winner. I would have liked
great.
to have seen him get destroyed by Karen when she turned into Gizmo. For all intents and purposes, she turns into this cute, because Joe Dante did Gremlins, and I think we see the first hint of Gremlins in the way that Karen turns into a werewolf, if you will, but she kind
Yeah,
of turns into
I was expecting her
Gizmo,
to
and
go.
it's weird.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that's what so they had like $5 left, and they're just like, we got
yeah,
to wrap
probably.
this up. The budget was only $1 million, and they're
Yeah,
right at that number. So yeah, Kevin
and
McCarthy's my, yeah.
great.
Go ahead, talk
Oh well,
about how she.
mine. Yeah, that was the thing. I think it was like they almost got like one of those pullover plastic
Yeah,
masks, and then
totally
they just put hair on it, and it was that took me out. But what can you
right.
do? Yeah, Mike Clay Thompson. It was such a hard choice for me because this whole movie was kind of a mix of old guard, new blood. You
Hmm.
had John Carradine, who was an actor from the old school. You had Slim Pickens, like you said, Kevin McCarthy, and then you had the new blood, which was Dee Wallace, Robert Picardo, and Belinda Blasky, and you kind of had this mix. And it kind of also had Noble Willingham, which is he was in what Ace Ventura. He was in those movies. He's in a lot of movies. He was in City Slickers. I'm about as happy as a puppy with two Peters, and
Yeah, he's great.
yeah. So, and then he had Dick Miller, who was always in Joe Dante movies. He was in Explorers. He was the helicopter pilot in Explorers. He was the grumpy old guy, next door neighbor in Gremlins. He was this. He's just a staple in these movies. But I think I'm gonna have to go with Slim Pickens. I think
Nice.
that he's a Western. He did a lot of Westerns. He brings
Hmm.
that good old boy authority to the rural kind of sheriff role. And his casting is like, it's playful, but it's just another recognizable face in this movie, kind of the old guard. Slim Pickens is my Clay Thompson Award winner for this one
Love it.
because yeah, just a lot.
Huge choice.
Yeah. So, any closing thoughts about this movie?
Let's see. I go back to the end of my notes here. But Karen's husband, Bill, is maybe one of the most unlikable characters that's ever met the screen. It's not that he does. First of all, he slaps her and she falls down.
Yeah.
That's no good. But I'm glad that he's the one who bites Karen and
Yeah.
changes
At the
her.
end. Yeah.
But he ends up in the cop car as Karen and I forget was his name, Chris, are driving
Yeah.
away. Unclear how the gun actually goes off because she's holding it by the end of the barrel, and then it goes off, and after she
I think
gets
she's
bit in
kind
the
of
neck.
shoot because they're both shooting like this.
Okay, yeah, it's a little clunky,
Yeah.
but I get the point.
Yeah.
Let's see what else. Final thoughts. Let's go down to. I'm a little confused about Dr. Wagner's motive. It seems like he wants to. He's the one who suggests Karen go to the colony. And then when he finally gets shot with the silver bullet, he says, "Thank God."
Yeah. Yeah.
Like he's glad it's over too. Like the old man wanted to end it all.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, if you didn't want to be even doing this, then why'd you tell Karen to
Yeah.
why'd you suggest she even come up here? So it was
Yeah.
a little
A little
well,
plot holy. Yeah.
some people are like I had to Google my and on IMDb there that question is why did Dr. Wagner tell her to go to the colony? Because I was like,
Yeah.
I'm not the only one who's confused by this. And again, this isn't part of the book. This is part of the movie. And I think if I had written the book and I had seen all that and then saw the doctor go from the beginning talking about how what is it that he says? Neurosis is the beginning of I mean, there's this
Depression.
big long
Yeah.
depression, and we need to, embrace our inner. I mean, he's got a philosophy that he lives by,
Yeah.
and then at the end, he's just, oh, thank God.
Yeah. Well, I just always took it as like I think they're all like you were saying before, they're all cursed with this. And he was just kind of, I think all right, well, we got to do this, we got to do this. But I think at the end, when he gets shot, I always took it as like, oh, good, I don't have to deal with all that shit anymore.
Yeah,
I'm out. That's how I took it, like kind of like a relief of just being, because they're obviously old. And I don't know if
yeah,
you age, maybe you do age as maybe you get bit young and then you age, or like vampires, you just get bit and you stay the age where you got bit. I don't know how that works, but I think it's just a wears on you after a while. Oh, shit, I gotta go kill
oh, of
somebody
course. Oh,
to eat or
immortality
whatever.
has its downside, and I can't die. Great. Well,
Yeah,
what if I'm ready for this to be over?
yeah,
I mean, that's the give. I mean, there's give and take of in the
yeah,
vampire movies, the same thing. You see some of the older vampires are they're super powerful, but at the same time, they're just bored.
yeah.
I've seen it
That's
all. I've
it,
done it
man.
all. What more is there?
Yeah,
This is dumb. I'm hanging out with a bunch of idiots. I could kill every single person on this planet. What's the point of even,
yeah,
yeah, I mean, immortality. We talked about it in The Devil's Advocate, where it's like, this is very tempting. The devil makes it look very seductive, but then when it backfired, you saw how pained he was, and then he just
yeah,
starts the whole thing over again because
yeah,
he's trapped. You're trapped in this. So, I mean, that's why the death is what they call the sweet release of death. I don't have to worry about this, and I will never hear an alarm clock go off again.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So I mean, there's a lot to it. We're rewatching Interview with the Vampire on the series because the next season's about to come out, and you see a lot of that. And I like the movie's very good. The series is very good. And this goes along vampires, werewolves, not so much zombies because they're already dead.
yeah,
So zombies kind of its own kind of when it comes to not the occult so much. It's not. Would this be occult stuff? I mean they're cryptids. That's what I'm looking for. The cryptids, shapeshifters, and the
uh-huh,
Mothman,
yeah,
and
yeah,
so. But you get to play with it how you want. Like the bookstore owner says, is like oh they don't have to wait for a full moon. They can do it whenever they want,
yeah,
and you're
yeah,
like you can do it at will. Like
yeah. That,
you know
yeah, that's where they had the Zag to. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that's your own take. Now you've created that whole universe. You created
Well,
your
that's the
own
whole
multiverse of it.
like I think it's called.
Lycanthrope.
Yeah, those are the shapeshifters. That's what's in Harry Potter too. When he in Prisoner of Azkaban, they don't call them werewolves; they call them just that word. I can't say that word, but yeah,
Hmm.
it's that word, and it's just the idea that a shapeshifter that can just change whenever they want. Because, like I was saying before, like the lore of the werewolf is that every full moon, so you have to wait a month before transformations. And I think in Silver Bullet, they get around that too by saying the sister was like, oh, it's like he can change every time, but as the moon gets fuller, he gets more wolfier. And
Oh
that's how they get
yeah,
around it in that movie too. But in the book, it's every month. That's why it's the chapters are January, February, March, April, whatever it was
yeah. The
of
cycle
the
of the
years.
werewolf.
Yeah, so that's how they get around it in movie talk, because you can't just do once a month unless you just time jump constantly, which would be kind of weird. But yeah,
Well,
it's
True Blood kind of took from the Howling in that you had the vampires, obviously, and vampires have rules. They can't go
Hmm.
out in sunlight. They have
Yeah.
to, come out. And then they introduced the werewolves, the werewolf pack, and they could change when they wanted to. They didn't have to
Yeah.
wait for a full moon. But the
Yeah.
werewolves up to around this time that we had when the full moon is what changes the man into a
Hmm.
wolf. You had those people that didn't want to turn into a wolf, so they would lock themselves away, and they would have people
Yeah.
that were like their assistants that make sure no matter how much I scream, don't let me out of this room,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I do like the idea that you don't have to wait until the sun goes down. They can change when
Yeah.
they want. And this is I want to be this werewolf. I'm
Yeah.
enjoying
Yeah.
this. I'm living my best
Well,
life.
well, that's how Eddie. That's how Eddie is in the Howling.
Yeah.
He's young and he just wants to. Let me show you something. He wants to show people. That's what he gets off on. That's what is ultimately his downfall. Come on, bright boy. Here, take it. And yeah, that's a great movie. Well, I think my final thoughts of this is that, good Lord, where are my notes? This was kind of the slasher movie kind of beginning, which you had, like I said, My Bloody Valentine, The Burning, Happy Birthday to Me. They were starting to dominate the theaters. You saw these turning into franchises and IPs, and you had sequels, and they start to dominate in the 80s. Because, like I said before, studios realized these were cheap and easy to make. But I think
Hmm.
this movie is a pretty. If this is your kind of entry, if you're our age, this is kind of it's a hit or miss. You either love it or you don't. That's fine. But I think if you're a younger crowd and your teens and you want to get into like the '80s kind of genre movie of this, like a slasher horror movie, I think this is a pretty good one to watch. Joe Dante, he's the master of this. He goes on to do Gremlins and
Hmm.
Explorers, and so I think this is a great
The
movie. I love it.
Burbs,
I when I revisit it, was that
the Burbs,
the Burbs?
inner
Yeah, he did.
space.
Yeah, Inner Space, which I love too. We got to do
I
that one.
love that movie so much.
Yeah. So go ahead. I recommend this to anybody that
Yeah.
wants to watch the old 80s horror slasher werewolf whatever movie. I love it. I recommend it and I sure hope you guys check it out. It's a great movie. And with that, I just wanted to say thank you to people that are listening, to people that are watching. Next week we're going to have a more modern horror movie. And we'll keep
Mhm.
that in the cards. Keep that close to our chest, but make sure you watch it cuz it's going to be a good one. And with
Yes.
that, thanks, Toby. Appreciate it.
Thank you. You bet.
All right, we'll see you guys.
Bye, guys.